He's one of the most recognizable politicians in South Carolina politics. And now, Charlie Lybrand is up for re-election in November. I had a chance to talk with him for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. Well, Charlie, I want to refresh your memory. It was really yesterday morning. I was at home, getting ready to go to my job at Market Street Deli, and all of a sudden my cell phone rang. And I picked it up and I said hello. And on the other line, it was this person saying, "This is Nikki Haley." And I immediately laughed because I knew it was you. You remember that phone call? That was funny. That was funny.
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I tell everybody I'm Barack Obama, too.
I've been trying to get an interview with Nikki for months. But, a lot of people don't see this side of you. So tell me why.
I don't know. Like I said, whenever my father died, my mother, bless her heart, she mourned forever.
I'm sure.
I'm convinced it burned her brain out. She got terrible Alzheimer's and lived till she was 88 years old and didn't know anybody. So we had spent every dime that my mother and father had trying to keep my mother as comfortable as possible. Tried to have her live with me. My wife and I, that didn't work. Finally, we got her at the Frankie home. That took every dime that we owned. Finally, we had to do the Medicaid. And so she lived in a little place in Monk's Corner in a little nursing home until she passed. And so I tell everybody, my mother and father didn't leave me a dime, but they left me a sense of humor. Which is so much more important than money.
That's
because, if you can find something humorous in something, then you have an opportunity to win somebody over. If you're being negative, or if you're being callous, or all those things that come with that negative connotation, you don't. There are two types of people. They're gatherers and they're non-gatherers. I get the impression that you're a gatherer because you want people to love you. You want to do a good job with something like this, and you want at the end of the day that when they say Quintin Washington, they say, he's all right. He's a good guy. And so I think that's the way it is with me. And so, they gave me a good sense of humor, and sometimes it gets me in trouble because I will say something at the end. I'll say. My wife will always say, "God, you shouldn't have done that one."
Yeah, but that happens. That's life.
That's right. That's right.
And you still use humor.
Yeah, I do. In fact, very few people know this, but I went to Shakora High School.
Yeah. Keith Summey went there as well.
Oh, sure. Keith and Al Cannon and I, the three of us were all right there classmates together. But my senior year, I can't imagine why, with big ears and like I have and all that stuff, they asked me to be in the Mr. Shakora High contest.
Right.
Well, at the end of the evening, I won the thing.
Wow.
And the reason that I won it was for the question that they asked me.
Okay.
They said, "What would you do if you could change the world?" And, you think about that, that's not a 15-second soundbite.
Oh, no.
But the thought that came to my mind that I could not turn loose was that if I could make people smile and make people laugh, maybe I might have a chance to change a tiny bit of the world. Yeah. And so you ask, how come people don't know this about me? I think those people who do know me do know that about me.
Yeah.
The others, well, maybe we'll get a chance one day.
Yeah. And when I was talking to you over the phone yesterday, you told me that you're in a lot of meetings and whatnot. So tell me, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, these last couple of weeks, and we'll talk about it eventually, I'm sure, about this little overage account and what happened and all that. It was pure meanness.
Okay.
It was pure politics. This thing had been around for 36 years. Wow. Two of my previous RMCs had used it. They were both Democrats.
Right.
It didn't come up 6 years ago. It didn't come up 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It came up here in the last week or two, and its sole purpose was to embarrass me.
Wow.
To knock me down, to really, and so I could have gotten angry about it, or I could have explained what it was all about. So I went about the business of doing that.
Right.
Well, I want you to know, I don't know how you say Nikki Haley or Vincent Shaheen or whoever it might be, how people who run serious, long races, the presidential race, for instance, a couple of years long, I don't know how they do it. Because last night, I was supposed to go to a function where Nikki Haley was. And I got home, and I said to my wife, I said, I'm mentally and physically exhausted. She said, well, this was about 5:30, I guess. She said, well, why don't you lay down for a few minutes before you go out?
Well, yeah.
Well, at 9 o'clock, I got up and then got underneath the cover and went back to bed.
And you woke up, it was like probably 2, 3 in the morning.
Yeah, well, I woke up, I don't know what time it was, and I said, well, it's obvious I'm not going to Nikki Haley's event.
Yeah.
I haven't had any supper. I slept through that, so I'm going to get some milk and Oreo cookies.
That's awesome, man.
And just went back to sleep.
And, I want to go back to what you said about the whole situation about the overage fund.
Yeah.
Tell me, what's your secret? Do you use the humor? Do you use, the Oreo cookies? What do you do? What's your secret to overcoming that? Because you've been in the politics business for a long time, Charlie.
Yeah, a long time. I don't mind it when people say Charlie Lybrand made a boneheaded decision.
Okay.
That's just life. We've all made them.
Yeah.
What I do take offense to is when somebody talks about my integrity in a negative way.
Sure.
Because that's about all we have at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
I don't own this furniture. I don't own this job. All I own is my integrity.
That's true.
And so what's occurred is that people, for all the wrong reasons, have attacked me and attacked my integrity. And there were times when they actually stole my joy because I had no defense.
Wow.
I pretty well got it back, as you can tell, because I think we were able to, at the end of the day, to say, this stuff is a bunch of baloney.
Yeah.
It's there for all the right reasons. I've got lawyer after lawyer telling me, please don't send me $2 back. It'll screw up a $12 million deal. They don't want that $2 back.
No, they don't want it.
They will tell me, go buy pizza for the office or something, but don't send me $2 back. And so that's been sort of comforting. What I did was, whenever Colleen Condon made such a huge deal about this, first thing I did was, I remember, and you may not edit this, I don't know, it doesn't really matter, but so I'm going to jump around a little bit. When I came on board 20 years ago, Lenny Krawcheck, who was one of the premier real estate attorneys in town, Lenny Krawcheck and Lydia Davison were sort of my go-to people. I didn't know them at the time, but they were, if I had a problem or something, I picked up the phone and called advice from them.
Right.
And so whenever Mr. King handed me the overage account, it was like he was handing me a hot potato. He didn't know what to do with it. He didn't want anybody to know about it.
He just wanted to pass it on.
Just take this and And so for the next 20 years, the auditor who knew about it did not think it was county money. He did not audit it by his own choice, not by me, but it wasn't audited. So it was just what it was. It was an account that if somebody died, the RMC did goodwill and we sent them some flowers or something.
Right.
One of my worst worst critics out there, her son committed suicide. What a terrible thing to have happen to a loved one. Well, I made a point that we went out and bought chicken and we bought cold cuts and we bought bread and we bought sweet tea and mashed potatoes and we carried all that to her and the overage account paid for that.
Right.
I don't think you could expect Charlie Lybrand and his staff to pay for that out of our pockets.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't do that because it was about a $50 or $60 deal.
Right.
And this woman could not get over that we would do something like that for her. And I said, look, what we're doing here, it's small compared to life itself.
Yeah.
And so the light that we have, I look above this politics stuff. So, and that's what we've done. And that's kind of, that's how I've managed to get over, to realize that as a person of faith, I have a higher being who kind of guides me on what I should do. And so I try not to let some of it worry me.
Yeah.
Some of it really ticks me off.
Wow.
But for the most part, I'm pleased with how it turned out. What I did was, the reason I was talking about Lenny Lenny said to me two things. He said, Charlie, use it at your discretion. It is forfeited funds. We don't want it back. And the other thing that I would tell you, your tenure at the RMC is always tell the truth. He said, because when you start figuring a way to make out something about or make up something about what you've done,
Right. It comes back to haunt you.
it comes back to haunt you. And so from the time this thing hit 3 weeks ago,
Oh, yeah.
I've tried to do nothing but to say, here it is. It's nothing that we've hidden. I wrote a letter to the Bar Association, and I said, you guys give me guidance.
Yeah.
Because if you want me to close it down, I'm happy to do it. I'm telling you, the responses were over. I didn't get one negative response.
Okay.
Said, please keep it. Please use the money at your discretion. Do whatever you think is best. And so that's what we've done. And I think at the end of the day, my head is held high. I can begin to laugh a little bit about it now. It was pretty tough there for a while.
Yeah.
And even today, my opponent is still acting like there's something wrong with it. Okay. He is out talking to the ministerial alliances and places, stirring up trouble because they have nothing else to run on.
Wow.
That's
and
all.
Tell me, you have been in politics, and you're actually one of the longest continued serving Republicans in the Low Country. I'm wondering, what does that mean to you?
Nothing.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I've been here for 20 years,
Right, yeah.
and I've never seen a Democratic deed or a Republican deed come across our desk.
Wow. Wow.
We serve the public.
Public, yeah. It's not politics.
It's not politics.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And let's go back to 1994. You really sent shockwaves to Charleston County when you actually beat out the incumbent RMC. Put on your thinking hat and tell me, how much did that shock you?
I really wasn't shocked.
Okay.
I mean, I had been serving on Charleston County Council for 4 years.
Right.
My opponent was a Democrat.
Right, I remember that.
He was a lifelong Democrat. He was concerned that the Democrats were going to put a black man in the Democratic primary, and he thought he was going to lose.
Wow.
So he shifted over and became a Republican.
Wow.
And so in the primary, when I came into this same desk right here, I walked in, I shook his hand, and I said, Mr. King, I'm going to be running for RMC.
Yeah.
He said, you can't do that. I said, why not? He said, well, they told me that if I switched, I wouldn't have competition. I said, well, Mr. King, they didn't tell me that, whoever they are.
Right.
And so I think that in the end result, what happened was we had a Democrat running in a Republican primary, and I think the Republicans who knew me as a council member voted and elected me. And so I think that that's the reason that I won. You know, he should have stayed true. I would have lost in the general election had he stayed a Democrat.
Right. And tell me, as we go back to your time on Charleston County Council, what was that like?
I was very, very fortunate to have served on council under a fellow by the name of Ed Favor.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Favor, Captain Favor, didn't play politics. He laid out everything that we did on a yellow sheet, as they called it. He gave us what the staff recommended. He gave us an option if the staff didn't recommend it, this is what we could do. And he gave us a third option that this is, if we do this, is what's going to happen. Yeah. And so I was spoiled because when we went to the meeting, the staff had done their work. And so we knew what we could do.
Yes.
My council really cared for each other. We had disagreements on policy,
Sure.
but there was never a foul word spoken about anybody. Nobody tried to cut anybody's throat.
Right.
We used to call it the PLC, the parking lot committee.
Really?
We'd talk out in the parking lot,
Right.
and we would say, what's best for you? I ran back then under what was known as the residency requirements.
Okay.
I lived in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was my residency, but the whole county voted for me. That has since changed.
Oh, yeah.
It is now single-member districts.
Yeah.
And I think the single-member districts are good to elect minorities. I'm not so sure that it's good for county government.
Okay.
Because what occurs is that you have a small district in North Charleston, and you sort of lose what's important in Mount Pleasant because the Mount Pleasant people can't vote for you.
That's true.
So it has pros and cons. I think that it's overall, I have no problem with it, but the fact of the matter is I would have liked to have seen a couple of at-large seats so that you would have had some kind of a continuity on the county government. Because what occurred, Quintin, is that with home rule coming in, the legislature backed away from some of their normal duties in the county. The cities were parochial, they did their thing. The county was supposed to do things like roads, they were supposed to do things with communication.
Oh, yeah.
They were supposed to do things with the solid waste,
Oh,
with the EMS, all of those kind of things. Well, that should never be split up in a small piece of the pie. That should be something that everybody cares about.
Okay.
I-26 is a good example.
Oh, yes.
Or 526, I
Yeah.
guess it is. You've got certain council members who really want it, but can't admit they want it because they've got people in their constituencies who are loud and want to vote against it. So
It goes back to politics.
Politics. That's right. Yeah.
And, another debate that has been going on over the past summer has been really trying to get a pay raise for the Charleston County Council. As we sit here right now, what is your take on that?
I think they need a raise.
Okay.
It's a big deal. It's
Okay.
a big job. I tell everybody when I first came on council, I was a general contractor.
Right.
I had 4 trucks that were paid for. I had 4 construction crews. We did painting, we did carpentry work. The only things we subbed out was sheetrock, electrical, and plumbing.
Okay.
At the end of my 4 years, while I may have been important and while I may have gone to a lot of meetings, I had 1 broken down truck and a lot of debt.
Wow.
Because I focused on council rather than on doing my job.
Right.
And it would have helped me back then if I decided to have done that,
Yeah.
to have enough money to come in to be able to pay some of my bills.
Yeah.
And so it took a couple of 3 years to get back up to where we were breaking even again.
Yeah.
My wife said that I missed great years with my children.
Yeah.
We joke.
Right.
She always says, it's a great line. You know,
Yeah.
if you file again, you're gonna need the
File
money. You might
divorce.
should file divorce at the
Yikes.
same time.
Tell me, how close were you to divorce? Seriously.
No,
I mean,
we were not.
Okay.
Oh no.
Okay.
No. It was
Okay.
never like that. But it was
Okay.
no.
Okay. And tell me, after being that close to really losing your business and missing some of those events in your family, what did you tell yourself?
I said, first of all, I really enjoy public service.
Yeah.
I love doing stuff like
Yeah.
we're doing now.
Yeah.
I love to make a difference in this life. And I think we've made a difference in the RMC. I think I made a difference when I was on council.
Right.
So what I could have done is I could have just said, okay, I'm not going to run again, and I'm going to build my business back up.
Okay.
Or we had an option. This seat was available, open. So I decided to run for the RMC.
See.
And I was blessed in that when I came on board, there were books all up and down the hall. The computer system was the old mainframe with the green bar paper. I mean, it was, the things. And
Right.
so I happened to step in at the exact time where I could make a difference.
Yeah.
And what you see now is that difference.
Yeah.
12 years ago, we had 4 million images
Right.
online. Today, we have over 20 million images online. Everything since 1997 has been scanned and imaged and is on the internet. We have a volunteer who comes in and does the scanning. All the entire historic library has been scanned and online. We have the gold standard for RMC offices or Register of Deeds offices across the state. If you were to go up to that counter and put a deed in, 4 days later, that deed would be back at your house.
Wow.
If you were to do that same deed, as soon as when the girl hits the enter button,
Right.
it's online in a day book so that the lawyer who's recording it
Sure.
can disperse the money.
Sure.
Knows
Sure.
it's online.
Right.
Those are critical and important things that we were able to accomplish.
Right.
And what we've been able to do is we've been able to get the right people and put them in the right places and be able to turn them loose and let them do their jobs.
Yeah. And you talk about the highlights here of the RMC. So what are the lowlights that you have in mind?
20 years ago, I had tremendous help from 5 or 6 people who were abstractors.
Okay.
They went out of their way to help me get elected.
Okay.
When I got on board and realized that this was not a political job,
Right.
and I realized that this was an administrative job, and I realized that I couldn't have those folks running in every day telling me what I should or should not do.
Right.
and that I did not appoint any of them to any particular jobs because I had people on board that I wanted to do those jobs. They turned on me like I was a piranha.
And where were you emotionally when that happened?
Well, they put one person up against me 3 times and backed her each time, and she kept losing and kept losing. Emotionally speaking, it just hurt my feelings, but you have to get over it. I would walk down the hall and they would ignore me, just not even, it was like I was not there. In this particular election, those same people are banking on my opponent. My opponent has been in town less than 3 years. He doesn't even own property in Charleston County. He doesn't have a deed, but yet he wants to be the director of the deeds office. And one of the women who, for some reason, hates my guts, has given my opponent over $700 cash.
Wow.
And those are the kind of things that I don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, Terry just brought me in a receipt where this same woman, it was $1 overage on her account. We could have taken that document and gave it back to her and said, I'm sorry, go cut another check.
Sure.
But we took the $1 overage. So what she's done, just to show how petty you can get, is highlighted the dollar, highlighted where it says she can have her money back, and has asked me to cut her a check for $1.
Yeah.
Now we're going to do that, but it's just being petty, and those are the kind of things that in life is too short for that kind of nonsense.
It is.
Yeah.
And you touched on your business earlier, so let's talk about Precision Builders. What are your memories of that particular business?
Great time.
Yeah.
I worked for a fellow before I went in business for myself.
Okay.
Who was a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Okay.
Oh, Lee, one day he was loving on you, the next day he was cussing you out. My wife and I had been married for almost 11 years without children. I say we, but she became pregnant. We were in the 8th month of pregnancy, and I had it. I just had it. So I came home one Friday afternoon and I said, sweetheart, we're going in business for ourselves. She said, you can't do that. I'm getting ready to have our baby. I said, well, we're going to have 2 babies, a new business and a new baby.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, Quintin, God provided. My wife, at the end of that 6 months, because we've been wanting a child for so long, at the end of that, not 6 months, 6 weeks, when she was supposed to go back to work, and her job, she always made more money than I did. It didn't matter what happened. If I got a raise, she'd say, I got one today too, and she would always make more money than me. But at any rate, so she did not go back to work. She stayed home and raised our daughter, and then 4 years later we had a son, and she raised him, and so she was a stay-at-home mother. That was difficult money-wise, but it was more important to me and to her to love on those kids and be there for them. Yeah. And so those are the fun times of Precision Builders. The bad times are the 10th of the month, where you got more checks in the account than you've got money.
Right.
And I'll never forget, I owed Hughes Lumber, I forget how much it was, $2,000 or $3,000, and I didn't have the money. Wow. I'd already got the material from them, and so I went down and saw Mr. Cam Byrne, and I said, Mr. Byrne, he had this tiny little office. Yeah. He was probably already 80 years old at the time. And I said, Mr. Byrne, can I see you? And he said, sure, come on in, Charlie. And I said, Mr. Byrne, I can't pay you. I said, it breaks my heart, but I can't pay you. And he said, do you have work? And I said, yes, sir. He said, do you think you'll be able to pay me? And I said, of course, I would not go without paying you. Right. He said, I want you to know you're one of the few men that's ever come in and told me that. He said, most people just refuse to tell me and keep charging, hide. And he said, Charlie, you have credit as long as you think you can pay me back. Wow. And I stuck his hand out and he said, thank you for coming by. And so my credit stayed with him and other places. Yeah. I was able to get caught back up. And so then when I came here, I thought that I could be the RMC and have a business on the side. Yeah. Quintin, it doesn't work that way. Wow. This is a full-time job. Wow. So I finally shut the business down and became a full-time RMC. Wow. And that's it. I tell the story that there's nothing more embarrassing to have a couple of people in here and the phone ring. Right. And I have a habit, be it good or bad, of answering every telephone call.
I noticed that.
And I answer it myself and I say, hello. Well, there's nothing worse than picking up the phone and having some woman yell at you, wanting to know where the sheetrock man is. or where the plumber is.
Right.
And so we had to make a decision at that point, and we just closed it down.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And what was your secret for really moving forward?
Never getting bored.
Okay. Okay.
You know, when you get bored, you lose focus.
That's true.
And so we were always had something that we wanted to do next.
Yes.
Like right now, we've got it just about at the pinnacle of where it could be. But with this latest system where we've downloaded everything into the OwnBase product, all the Apple products can be used in it. All the search engines,
Right.
Chrome and otherwise,
Right.
can be used in it. The Android system can be used in
Yeah.
it. You can pull up and get a deed or a plat from any place in the world. But it's more important if you're on Johns Island and you're a surveyor and you need to pull up a survey to see where that stake is.
Sure.
That's the one that we worked for.
Okay.
And so they can now do that.
Yeah.
But what that does is that allows us to take the next step, which is a product called Workflow. And so what I will do after the first of the year, I'm not trying to do anything until after the election because it may not work out.
Okay.
I hope it will. I hope you'll vote for me. After the first of the year, we'll implement something called Workflow, and what that means is that with all of the documents, we'll scan them in. They'll be online first, and then we will not have to physically take every document that comes in down to the assessor and have her stamp it, or down to the auditor and have him stamp it.
Right.
We'll do an electronic stamp, and the documents will stay right here and not get lost. And hopefully we can cut that 4 days down to 3 days.
Sure.
And so that's the next step in what we're going to do. I think also the other thing is that we have a very sophisticated, very expensive, high resolution plat camera with a book cradle on it.
That's awesome.
And so the historic documents that are bound, you put in this book cradle, and it lifts up, and it pulls the curvature of the book up against the glass wall so that you can take a picture of it. We've been using that now for about 6 months.
Wow.
My game plan was that we would get involved with Historic Charleston, with the College of Charleston's digital library.
Yeah.
I had to put some of that on hold because of the campaign and because of all this other stuff. But my goal is, as soon as this is over with, Bob McIntyre, who runs our IT department here, Bob will reignite, if you will, all of the contacts that he had in the various ones, and we will become not only Charleston County's RMC, but we'll become the hub for digital reconstruction of all historic documents in Charleston County.
And personally, have you been able to adjust to all the digital conversions and whatnot here?
I have people.
Okay. Okay, that's good enough.
Yeah.
And you talk about game plan. So what's your game plan for November 4th?
What we have done in the past, and is my wife and I, now we're older now, we don't have quite as much get up and go as we once did, but we used to always fix goodie bags. And we'd fix cookies and candies and stuff, and we'd take them around and drop them off at all the election places because the people who work the elections,
They work long hours.
they start at 6 and don't get finished until 8, and long hours, and I just wanted them to know that we cared
Appreciate
about
them.
Yeah, so that's what, and so we go by, now we don't really carry them goodies as much as we used to. I think they used to make $7 a day. I think it's up to $25 a day now, maybe some 40 or whatever it is. So what we will do is, I doubt that I will come into work. I'll be here Wednesday morning, win, lose, or draw. What we do is we go around to we'll vote first, my wife and I will, and then we'll go around and thank the people who are doing the elections for their hard work. So that'll be the game plan.
Well, finish these sentences for me. Being married to your wife is?
It's been quite an experience.
Your children are?
Terrific.
Yeah. Being a grand...
You can't, it almost makes it worth having children.
Yeah. Charlie Lybrand is?
If I failed tomorrow, I would have far exceeded any expectations I may have had.
Mission trips taught you?
Oh my heavens. It taught me to love people that are unlovable.
Yeah.
Taught me to see what people who have never had a bed and have never had a floor to walk on, living and sleeping on dirt,
Yeah.
rolling out a little mat to sleep on, whose education system is non-existent. You know, it's taught me, one of the things that I think that I'm most proudest of is we were in a little place called Roos in Honduras, out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And is that my phone ringing? I guess somebody got it.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
But anyway, in little countries, and I suppose it's like that here as well, the bigger the church, the more influence the pastor has.
Sure.
And so it's even more important in a little place like Honduras or Nicaragua or someplace like that. So here, you know, the Baptists, we used to always joke about they didn't allow premarital sex because it led to dancing. You know, well, that's supposed to be a joke. But at any rate, so we went to this little place on a mission trip, and my pastor called all of the churches into a little community together. There was lots of them.
Yeah.
Some of them only had 15, 20 people. Others had 40 people or 50 people. Yeah. And so what he said was, let's talk about the thing that are common to Christianity. Jesus, loving your neighbor, those kind of things. Right. And let's take all these other things, whether or not you've got socks on, whether or not you're wearing a tie to church, right, whether or not you dance, or whether or not you have a glass of wine at the end of the day.
You put that on the backside.
Put that on the backside. Let's focus on what's important to our faith. And he was able to win over a bunch of people who were skeptics about him and about our church being there. Wow. And so I think that's been my most pleasant thing about mission trips is to go someplace and to know that at the end of the day that you may have done what the Great Commission said, and that's to win people over to Christ.
And he'll come back soon.
Yeah.
And if I'm correct, you are 68 years old.
68.
Yeah. Tell me, how much energy, more energy, do you have for this politics?
It's not as easy as it used to be. I have a bad back. L4 and L5 is destroyed. I've got all kinds of nonsense going on back there. And so I have a pain guy that I take nerve blocks 4 times a year. I eat a good bit of pain medicine and muscle relaxers. So it's a lot more difficult, and I see my knees aren't quite what they used to be. I got arthritis in these 2 fingers here, and it killed me. But at any rate, so it's harder to get going early in the morning, but take some time. But after that, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Charlie Lybrand, this was so great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Good. Nice to see you.